Frozen discovery. The storm was heavy and the wind howled across the frozen wilds. Snow covered the land as far as the eye could see. The night was dark, and the cold bit into every living thing that dared to stay outside. In that endless, white wasteland, a lone human walked. His name was not important to most of the galaxy, but on this night, his name would be remembered forever. He was traveling alone, searching for shelter before the storm grew worse. His boots sank into the deep snow and every breath came out as white mist. He thought he was the only living soul in this place, until he noticed something unusual. At first he saw only shadows in the distance, two faint shapes lying in the snow. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it was a trick of the storm, but as he moved closer, his heart began to beat faster. Those were not shadows, they were bodies. The man rushed forward, his legs burned from the effort, but he did not stop. When he reached the figures, he gasped. They were not human, they were alien girls. Both had strange markings on their skin, their hair long and tangled with snow. Their eyes were closed, their bodies shaking weakly, they were freezing. He bent down and touched one of their arms. The skin was ice cold, almost lifeless. Without thinking, he pulled off his thick coat and wrapped it around the sisters. He could feel how light they were, how close they were to death. The storm screamed around him, but he did not leave them. He picked them up, one in each arm, and began to carry them toward the old shelter he had seen earlier. The path was rough, the snow deep, and the cold cruel. But he refused to let go. Every step was a battle. The wind pushed against him. The snow blinded him. His muscles screamed in pain. But then he looked at the sisters' pale faces, and he knew giving up was not an option. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the broken remains of a cabin hidden in the ice. It was old, walls cracked and roof bent, but it was enough to block the storm. He kicked the door open and stepped inside. He laid the sisters gently on the floor. His hands shook as he lit a small fire. The warmth slowly spread through the room. He watched as the flames danced, hoping they would be strong enough to keep the sisters alive. The man worked quickly. He rubbed their hands, tried to warm their skin. He even gave them water, pressing it to their lips. For a long moment there was no response. The silence of death seemed ready to claim them. But then, one of the sisters coughed. A weak sound, but enough to give him hope. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the firelight. She looked at him in shock, as if she had never seen a human before. The other sister soon followed. Her voice was a whisper, broken by the cold. Why help us?" she asked. The man did not answer at first. He only placed more wood on the fire and pushed the blanket closer around them. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm, but strong. "Because you would have died out there, and I could not let that happen." The sisters exchanged a glance. They were weak, trembling, but also confused. They had been told humans were selfish, cruel, and dangerous. Yet here was a man who risked his life to save them. As the fire crackled, the human sat back watching them carefully. He had questions, many questions. Who were they? Why were they here in this frozen wasteland? But for now he stayed silent, letting them rest. The storm outside roared like a beast, shaking the walls of the cabin. But inside, there was only the sound of fire and shallow breaths. The sisters slowly closed their eyes again, drifting into sleep. Their hands clutched at the blanket, as if afraid it would be taken from them. The human leaned against the wall, his own body tired, his mind restless. He thought he had been alone in this frozen land. But now he had found not one but two lives to protect outside. The snowstorm grew worse, but inside that broken cabin a new story had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Fear and trust. The storm outside raged on, its icy winds screaming against the broken cabin walls. Inside, the fire burned weakly, casting a soft glow across the two alien sisters. Their bodies trembled less now, but their faces still carried fear. The human sat near the fire, watching carefully. He had saved them from the frozen wilds, yet he knew this was only the beginning. He was a stranger to them, and they were strangers to him. In the galaxy, Trust was a rare thing, and in that moment, the air inside the cabin was heavy with silence. The younger sister stirred first. Her glowing eyes opened, staring at the human. She quickly pulled the blanket tighter around herself, as if he were a danger. "You are human?" she whispered. Her voice was filled with shock and suspicion. The man nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied, his voice calm, steady. "I am human." Her eyes widened, and she pulled her sister closer. The older sister also woke, her gaze sharp though her body was weak. Both stared at him as though they had seen a monster. The human raised his hands gently, showing he meant no harm. "You don't need to be afraid," he said softly. "I saved you from the snow, that is all." But the sisters did not relax. They had been taught stories of humans, that they were dangerous, greedy, and cruel. The galaxy's whispers painted humans as destroyers, not saviors. And yet, this one had carried them, warmed them, and kept them alive. The older sister's voice was hoarse, but she managed to ask, "Why? Why save us? You don't even know who we are." The man looked at the fire for a moment, then back at them. "Because life is precious," he said. "It doesn't matter who you are." The sisters blinked. Their fear wavered for a second, replaced by confusion. Could a human really think this way? The younger sister leaned close to her sibling, whispering words in their own alien tongue. The human didn't understand, but he could see the doubt and worry in their eyes. They did not trust him yet, but they also did not push him away. Time passed slowly. The storm still screamed outside. The fire cracked softly. The human offered them water again, holding it out carefully. The older sister hesitated, then finally took it with shaking hands. She sipped slowly, her eyes never leaving him. The silence was heavy until the younger sister finally spoke. Her voice trembled. We were told humans are cruel, that you take what you want and leave nothing but ashes." The human looked at her quietly, his expression calm but strong. "Then perhaps you were told wrong," he said. The sisters exchanged another glance. Their fear was not gone, but something else began to grow. Curiosity. Still, shadows of fear clung to them. They pulled the blanket tight, keeping distance. Their eyes studied every movement he made, waiting, watching. The man did not press them for answers. He knew trust could not be forced. Instead, he placed more wood on the fire, keeping the warmth alive. He let silence fill the room, believing actions would speak louder than words, but the silence was soon broken. A low howl echoed outside, carried by the storm. It was not the wind. It was something else. The sisters froze, their eyes wide with terror. The human looked at them sharply. "What was that?" he asked. The older sister's lips trembled. "They are hunting," she whispered, her voice almost too soft to hear. "If they find us, we are dead." The human leaned forward, his jaw tightening. "Who is hunting you?" The sisters shook their heads, refusing to say more. Fear silenced their words, their bodies trembled again, not from the cold, but from the memory of something darker. The human stared at the cabin door, listening to the storm. His instincts told him the danger was real. He looked back at the sisters, seeing the terror in their eyes. He knew then, whatever hunted them was not far. The firelight flickered, shadows danced across the walls. The sisters clung to each other, whispering in fear. The human sat still, silent, but ready. He had saved them once from the snow, but now he realized the greater danger had only just begun. The storm outside was only a curtain, hiding hunters in the dark, and soon, those hunters would come. The secret passed. The fire burned low, filling the broken cabin with a faint orange glow. Outside, the storm still screamed, but inside, the human sat in silence. His eyes stayed on the two alien sisters, who clung to each other, their faces pale with fear. He had saved them from the frozen wilds, but he could see it now. The snow was not their only enemy. Something far more dangerous hunted them. The younger sister's hands trembled as she pulled the blanket closer. She kept glancing at the door, as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. The older sister, though weak, had her jaw tight. Her eyes were sharp, but they carried the heavy weight of secrets. Finally, the human broke the silence. His voice was calm but firm. "You are afraid of something, not just the cold. Tell me, who is out there?" The sisters exchanged a glance. Their lips pressed together as if deciding whether to speak or to remain silent. At last, the older sister spoke, her voice shaking. "If we tell you, you will leave us. No one dares to stand against him." The man's eyes narrowed. "Him?" The younger sister's breath hitched. She whispered the word as though it was poison. "The Lord of the Frostlands." The cabin seemed colder just from the sound of that name. The man leaned forward, listening carefully. The older sister continued, her words slow, each one heavy with fear. "He is not a man, not truly. He is a ruler who takes what he wants. He controls these lands with cruelty. He hunts those who defy him, and we defied him." The younger sister lowered her head, tears in her eyes. "He wanted us as his servants. We were promised to him as possessions, not wives, not family, only property. But we escaped. We ran into the snow, knowing death was better than his chains." Her voice cracked as she clung tighter to her sister's arm. The human's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with anger at their words. In his heart, he felt something rise. Not just pity, but a sharp and burning rage at the thought of anyone treating life as worthless. "You would rather freeze to death than be his slaves," he said quietly. The sisters nodded. The firelight revealed the truth in their eyes, the pain they carried. A long moment. Silence filled the cabin again. The storm outside howled like a beast, but inside, only the crackling of flames could be heard. Then the human spoke, his voice steady. "You were right to run, and you were lucky the snow did not claim you, but now, if he is hunting you, he will come. He will not stop. He will want what he thinks belongs to him." The older sister lowered her eyes. "That is why we cannot stay with you. If you are seen helping us, you will die too. Humans cannot fight him. No one can." The man let out a small laugh, but it was not of joy. It was of defiance. "You think I will let you walk back into the snow? You think I will hand you over to him?" The sisters looked at him in surprise. They expected fear, perhaps even betrayal. But instead, they saw determination. The human leaned closer, his voice low but powerful. "Listen to me. I have faced storms, beasts, and worse. I do not fear your Lord, and I will not let him take you." For the first time, the sister's fear softened. It was not gone, but in its place was a flicker of hope. The younger sister whispered, almost too softly to hear. Why risk your life for us?" The man looked at her with steady eyes. "Because no one deserves chains, not you, not anyone. As long as you are under this roof, you are under my protection." The fire crackled, sparks flying upward. The sisters stared at him speechless. For so long they had only known fear. Yet here was a human, the very being they had been taught to hate and distrust, standing as their shield. The older sister's lips trembled. She wanted to believe, but doubt still lingered. "If he finds us, he will bring many hunters. They will not stop. They will burn this place down." The human's gaze did not waver. "Then let them come," he said. "I will be ready." The sisters fell silent. Their hearts were torn between fear and faith, between despair and this strange new light. Outside, the storm began to calm. But in that silence, another sound crept into the night. The crunch of footsteps in the snow. Slow and steady. The sisters froze, their eyes wide with terror. The human stood, his hand reaching for the blade strapped to his belt. His eyes narrowed toward the cabin door. The past had been revealed, and now the present danger had arrived. The hunters were close, the human's choice. The fire flickered inside the broken cabin. but its warmth now felt weak compared to the cold fear pressing in from outside. The storm had quieted, yet the sound of footsteps in the snow grew louder, slow, and deliberate. Whoever hunted the sisters had arrived. The human stood near the door, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. His eyes narrowed, steady and sharp. He could feel the weight of the sisters' stares behind him. They trembled, not from the cold this time, but from terror. The older sister whispered, her voice cracking, "You cannot fight them, they will kill you. Please leave us. If they find us with you, you will die too." The younger sister clutched her arm, her tears shining in the firelight. "He will not stop. If you resist, he will hunt you as well. He will never forgive it." The human turned his head slightly, his voice calm yet unyielding. "And if I walk away now? What happens to you?" Neither sister answered. Their silence was enough. They both knew the truth. If the hunters took them back, their lives would end in chains. The footsteps outside paused. The air was heavy. It felt as though the frozen wilds themselves were holding their breath. The man's heart pounded, but his face showed no fear. Instead, his thoughts became clear. This was the moment of choice. He could save his own life by leaving them, or he could stay and risk everything. The older sister shook her head. "We are not worth your life. Human, you do not know us. You owe us nothing." The man finally turned to face them fully. His eyes burned with fire. "You are wrong," he said firmly. "I owe you everything. Because I am not like him. I will not leave the helpless to die. Not now, not ever." The sisters stared at him in shock. They had expected betrayal or fear, but not this. Not this fierce, unshakable resolve. The human stepped closer, his voice lower but stronger. "I have faced death before. I have seen storms tear men apart. But I will not stand by and watch cruelty win. If I walk away now, then I am no better than the monster who hunts you." The younger sister's lips trembled. Her eyes glistened. "But if you stay, you will be marked forever. He will hunt you until the stars burn out." The man's grip on his blade tightened. His expression did not change. "Then let him hunt. I will not bow." For the first time, silence filled the sisters, not from fear but from awe. In their lives, no one had ever spoken such words for them. No one had ever stood between them and danger without asking for reward. The footsteps outside started again, closer, crunching against the snow. A shadow moved against the crack of the cabin door. The hunters were circling. The sisters leaned into each other, trembling. Their alien markings glowed faintly in the firelight. The older sister whispered, "We should run." The man shook his head. "No, running in this storm will only kill you. Here, we can fight." The younger sister gasped, "Fight against them?" The man's eyes sharpened. "I don't run from shadows, I face them." The cabin door rattled. A deep growl echoed from outside. The hunters had found them. The sisters grabbed his arm suddenly, their voices desperate. "Promise us. If we die, you will not die for us. Please, promise." The man looked at them both, his face calm even as danger closed in. "No," he said simply. "I will not promise. Because I intend to keep you alive. Both of you." The sisters were stunned. Their fear battled with something new in their hearts. Something warmer. Something they had almost forgotten. Hope. Outside, the snow crunched again, and then silence. The man moved to the door slowly, his blade ready. He whispered one last thing before the storm broke. "Stay close to the fire. Do not fear. Tonight, you will see what a human truly is." The sisters clutched each other tighter. Their eyes followed him as he stepped forward. His figure stood tall in the firelight, casting a long shadow against the walls. In that moment, he was not just a traveler in the snow. He was a shield, a guardian, and the first spark of defiance against the cruelty that had haunted them for so long. The cabin creaked, the wind carried distant howls, and the hunters prepared to strike. But the human had made his choice. He would not abandon them, and for the first time in their lives, the sisters believed they were not alone. The rising danger. The storm outside had grown quiet. But silence in the frozen wilds was never peace. It was the silence of predators waiting to strike. Inside the cabin, the fire glowed faintly. The two alien sisters clung to each other, their eyes locked on the door. The human stood tall, his blade glinting in the firelight. He had already made his choice. He would not abandon them, but now came the true test. A sharp thud echoed against the door. The sisters flinched. The older one gasped, "They are here!" The man's grip on his blade tightened. He glanced around the cabin. His eyes studied the broken walls, the fallen wood, the cracks where snow pushed through. He saw not just ruin, he saw tools. Quickly he moved to one side. Dragging an old wooden beam into place with practiced skill, he wedged it against the door, creating a barrier. Then he spread loose snow and ash across the floor near the entrance. His mind worked like a soldier's, turning weakness into traps. The sisters watched in shock. "What are you doing?" The younger one whispered. The man did not look up. His voice was steady, "Making sure they regret coming in." Another thud shook the door, then a low growl followed. The sisters froze. Their alien markings began to glow faintly with fear. The hunters were not ordinary men. Their presence pressed against the walls like a storm of shadows. The door rattled again, harder. Splinters cracked. The older sister gripped her sibling's hand, whispering in panic, "We cannot win. They are too strong." The human turned sharply. His voice cut through their fear. "Strength is not everything. Strategy wins battles." As if to test his words, the door finally burst open. A blast of icy wind swept into the cabin, and with it came the first hunter. Its body was tall, covered in thick armor of bone and metal. Its eyes glowed faint blue in the dark. It snarled as it stepped inside, but the moment it did, its foot hit the ash and snow spread across the floor. The wood beneath gave way, snapping. Into a crude pit the human had made, the creature roared as its legs sank. The human lunged forward, his blade flashing. Steel struck flesh. The hunter howled, falling back into the storm. The sisters gasped, their fear mixed with awe. They had expected him to be slaughtered in seconds, but instead he fought like a storm himself. More shadows appeared outside the broken doorway. The hunters circled, growling. The man pulled another beam of wood, forcing it into place. "Stay by the fire," he said sharply. "Do not move unless I say," the older sister whispered. "Why fight for us? You cannot win against so many." The man's eyes burned. "Because someone has to." The hunters attacked again, this time from the side wall. The wood cracked as claws tore through. The human was ready. He grabbed a shard of burning wood from the fire and thrust it into the gap. Flames licked at the invader's arm and the beast pulled back with a snarl. The cabin shook with the force of the attack, but still, the human did not falter. He moved with speed, pushing tables, wood, and fire into place. Every strike of the hunters was met with a counter. Every gap turned into a weapon. The sisters clutched each other. Their hearts pounded, their fear of him, the human one, was fading, replaced by something stronger. Admiration. The younger sister whispered, almost to herself, "He is not like the stories." "He is different." The older sister's eyes softened. "He risks everything, even for strangers." Outside, the hunters regrouped. Their growls echoed in the frozen air. They were many, but the human stood tall, blood on his blade, firelight in his eyes. He turned once more to the sisters. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, but his voice was steady. "They will not stop tonight, but neither will I." The sisters looked at him, and for the first time, their fear shifted into something new, a dangerous and powerful truth they could not deny. They were beginning to love him. But before the warmth of that thought could settle, a louder sound tore through the night, the horn of the Frost Lord's hunters, a call that meant more were coming, stronger and fiercer. The sisters' eyes widened in terror. The younger one whispered, "He knows where we are," the human. Lifted his blade again, his jaw set, his gaze never wavered. "Then let him come," he said coldly. "The wilds have taken many lives, but tonight, it will take his men." The fire crackled, the wind howled, and the cabin stood ready for war. The sisters clung to each other tighter, their hearts torn between fear and love. For the first time, they argued not about survival, but about who would win the human's heart if they all lived through the night. The confession. The cabin smelled of smoke and blood. The fire still burned, though low. Its weak flames danced across the broken walls. Outside, the storm carried the howls of hunters retreating into the night. For now there was silence, but the human knew it would not last. He stood near the doorway, his blade dripping. His breath came heavy, yet his eyes remained sharp. He had driven the hunters back, not defeated them, but bought time. Time was a gift, and in this frozen land, every second mattered. Behind him, the two sisters sat near the fire. Their bodies were bruised, their faces pale, but their eyes never left him. They had seen him fight like a storm. They had seen him stand when others would run. The younger sister broke the silence first. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper. You fought them. You risked your life and you did it for us? The man turned slightly, his expression calm. You needed protection, so I gave it. The older sister shook her head, her voice stronger now. No one fights the Frost Lord's hunters, not even. Our own people, they kneel, they obey, but you stood against them. The human's jaw tightened. He looked at the fire, not at them. Because kneeling is death in another form, chains are worse than snow. The sisters fell silent. His words cut into them. They understood. For the first time, someone had spoken what they had always felt but never dared to say. The fire crackled softly, throwing sparks into the air. The sisters exchanged a glance, a silent conversation. Then, slowly, the younger one leaned forward. Her glowing eyes shone in the dim light. We must tell you something, she whispered. The human looked at her, waiting. Her hands trembled, but her voice held courage. We are not only running from him, we are bound to him by law, by blood contract. If we return, we will be nothing but his possessions. Her sister's voice joined hers, stronger, filled with emotion. But after tonight, after seeing you fight, we no longer wish to run only from him. We wish to run toward something. The human frowned. Toward what? The older sister's eyes softened. Her lips trembled. Toward you. The words fell heavy into the room. For a moment, the fire seemed to quiet. The human's chest tightened. He turned his gaze to the sisters, both staring at him with eyes full of something he had not expected. Not fear, not gratitude, but longing. The younger sister's cheeks burned faintly. We were ready to die, in the snow, but you gave us life again. You fought for us, not because of duty, not because of power, but because of who you are, and now, both of us, wish to stay with you. The human's breath caught. His hand tightened around his blade. He had faced storms and hunters without fear, but these words shook him more than any enemy. You cannot mean, he began, but the older sister interrupted, her voice steady and brave. We do mean it, both of us. We wish to be yours, not as slaves, not as servants, but as wives, as family. The cabin fell into silence again. The only sound was the fire, soft and steady. The human's eyes moved between them. Two alien sisters, bound by blood, bound by fear, now bound by love for the same man. A human. The very kind they had. Once feared, his voice was low, almost a whisper. Both of you, and why? The younger sister leaned closer, her eyes bright. Because you are not like him. You are not like anyone we have known. You gave us warmth when we had none. You gave a strength when we were weak. You gave us hope when hope was dead, her sister added, her voice soft but powerful. And now, we give you our hearts. The human felt a storm inside his chest. He had not expected this. He had not asked for it. Yet here it was, pure, undeniable. But before he could answer, the silence was broken. A horn sounded in the distance, deep and cruel. The hunters had not given up. The Frost Lord himself had sent a new wave. The sisters gasped, their confession still hanging in the air. The human lifted his blade once more, his face hard, his heart conflicted. He looked at them, his voice steady. "This night is not over. If you truly wish to stay with me, then you must be ready to survive what comes next." The sisters nodded, their eyes no longer filled only with fear, but with fire, the fire of love, the fire of defiance. Outside, the snow carried the sound of war. Inside, the cabin carried the sound of a new bond stronger than death, and the Frost Lord was coming. The final stand and new beginning. The horn's echo rolled across the frozen wilds like thunder. It was a sound of power, of fear, of death marching closer. The sisters froze, clutching each other, their glowing eyes wide with terror. The human, however, did not move. His blade rested steady in his hand, his stance tall and unbroken, the night outside lit with faint blue lights, torches carried by armored hunters, their shadows stretched across the snow. At the center of the army came a figure taller than the rest, wrapped in black furs and iron, his face hidden by a mask of bone, his voice cold as the storm itself. The Frost Lord. The cabin shook as his hunters approached. The sisters' breaths came fast. The younger whispered, "It is him. He has come. Himself." The older sister's voice cracked. "We cannot win. He will take us back. He always takes what he wants." But the human turned his head slowly, his eyes burning like fire. "No, tonight he takes nothing." The sisters stared at him, torn between fear and hope. His words carried a weight that even the storm could not silence. The Frost Lord's voice boomed from outside. "Human, you shelter what belongs to me. Give them, and I may spare your life." The man stepped forward to the doorway, his blade flashing in the firelight. His voice rang clear, steady as stone. "They are not yours. They never were, and they never will be." A growl erupted from the hunters. The Frost Lord's icy laugh followed. "Foolish creature, you think your kind has power here? You are alone, one man against an army." The human's grip tightened, his heart pounded, but his voice stayed strong. "One man with a choice is never alone." With that, the battle began. The hunters surged forward, breaking through the snow. The human met them head-on. His blade cut swift, his movements sharp. He fought not only with steel but with fury, with fire. His traps burned, his strikes crushed. The cabin became a fortress. Every wall, every flame turned into a weapon in his hands. The sisters, trembling, refused to hide this time. They grabbed burning wood, striking at claws that came too close. Their fear transformed into courage as they stood beside him. The Frost Lord stepped closer, his presence cold enough to freeze the air. He raised a massive spear carved from black ice. Its edge gleamed with death. With one strike, he shattered the cabin wall. The sisters screamed. The man was thrown back, his blade skidding across the floor. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to rise, his eyes locked on the Frost Lord. "You will not take them," he growled. The Frost Lord's laugh shook the night. "They are mine by law, by blood. You cannot change destiny." The man spat blood into the snow, his eyes blazing. "Then I will break destiny," he charged. His blade met the Frost Lord's spear. Sparks flew, ice cracked. The clash shook the cabin to its bones. The sisters cried out, "Human!" But their voices only gave him strength. He fought with everything, with rage at cruelty, with love for freedom, with defiance against chains. The Frost Lord struck again, his power monstrous. But the man dodged, using speed, not strength. He slashed at the cracks in the Frost Lord's armor. The beast roared. At last, the man drove his blade deep, straight into the Frost Lord's chest. The Lord staggered, his icy eyes wide with disbelief. His voice hissed, "Impossible." A human, before his body crumbled into shards of ice, scattering into the storm. Silence fell. The hunters froze, then fled into the night, leaderless, broken. The sisters ran to the human. Their hands pulled him close, their tears hot against his frozen skin. "You did it," the younger whispered. "You saved us." The older sister's voice shook. "No one has ever stood against him but you. You destroyed him." The man, exhausted, sank to his knees. His blade fell into the snow. He looked at them with tired but steady eyes. "I told you. As long as I stand, no chains will ever bind you. The sisters held him tighter. Their fear melted away, replaced by love, true and unshakable. That night in the frozen wilds, a new story was born. A story of a human who saved not only two alien sisters but gave them hope, love, and freedom. And when the galaxy learned of it, they did not call him fool. They called him legend,